In this installment of 80/20 SEO, I want to talk about semantic search or semantic SEO. And specifically, like all of the videos that I do, I want to show you a case study of how I use semantic search to write articles and rank in the search engines. But you may be asking, what exactly is semantic search? So the best definition I've seen is from Search Engine Journal, and they define it as the process of building more meaning and topical depth into your web content. And I think the two key ideas here are meaning, and what I take away from that is search intent. What is someone expecting to get when they hit a web page or type in a keyword and hit a web page? Is their search intent served? And do they come away from the article having their query answered? And then the second is topical depth, which for me is about coverage. Have I covered the topic in as much detail as possible? And have I covered every angle as well? And does it logically flow? So that's, I think, a really good definition of semantic SEO. There's various ways that you can go about analyzing the SERPs to figure out how to write a great article that serves search intent and also has topical depth. But the most straightforward way is actually to look at the SERPs to see what's going on when you type in a keyword. You know, what pages are ranking and what's on the actual Google SERP page. And that's totally free. You don't need to use any specific tools to do that. But if you want to take things to the next level, I recommend using the keyword grouping software. We use KeyClusters. Full disclosure, I own KeyClusters, but I think it's the best keyword grouping tool. And this will give you a lot more insight on the keyword variations that you want to build onto the page. It will also help you avoid keyword cannibalization. But importantly, it's going to give you all of the semantically related keywords that you can build into your headers and so on. So I'll show you how we do that. And then you might also want to use tools like Frase or Surfer, these content optimization tools that use natural language processing to understand some of the topic entities and also some of the terms that you should have on the page. Okay, so let's do a real case study and look at one of my sites. So unlike many SEOs, I actually reveal many of my sites. I don't know why SEOs hide things. It's a strange industry. But this is one of my sites, Climb Kilimanjaro Guide. It's a site that helps people get to the top of Kilimanjaro, and I use it a lot because it's a micro niche and it's nice to look at. So the topic here is Kilimanjaro weather, and this is the article I have on Kilimanjaro weather. Fairly detailed article, and the question is, have I covered this article in as much detail as possible? Have I served search intent and so on? So let's jump into the SERP, and the first thing I notice, and it's pretty obvious when someone's typing in Kilimanjaro weather, is they're probably thinking about the weather at this very moment, in which case Google's actually serving the results immediately. So I suspect this keyword gets pretty much no clicks or very few clicks because a good portion of people who are typing it in are just looking for the weather today, and Google serves that in the SERP. But some people obviously will be thinking more broadly about weather, like the weather next month or when they want to climb Kilimanjaro in a few months' time or whatever it is. So let's have a look at the SERP as we go down here. We can see mountainforecast.com have an article. And we hit the people also ask section. Now this starts giving us a lot more color that we can build into our article. So people asking, what is the best month to go? How cold is it at the top or on the summit? What is the climate of Kilimanjaro and so on? So you're getting a lot more information in terms of the semantic relationships to the primary keyword Kilimanjaro from the people also ask section. And then you get more search results here, and you can see people also search for, by month, the weather on specific months, January, September, December, October, and so on. What's the weather like at the airport and so on. And if I went down to the related searches, you're going to get also some more insight. So just by looking at the SERP, I've already started to build up quite a detailed structure of what I think needs to be on the page based on what Google's serving me. Obviously, I can then go jump into some of these results and see, what have they got on the page. So, if I jump into this one here, I can see, what is the weather on Kilimanjaro? Is there snow at the top? What are the temperatures, climate zones, and so on? Weather variations, weather chart here, month by month analysis, and so on. So, if I looked at 4 or 5 of these results, I'd build up a very detailed picture of what I think needs to be on the page. And so without even using a tool, you could build an outline by just looking at the SERP and some of the ranking results. But let's say you wanted to go a little bit deeper and you wanted to actually look at some keyword grouping around a C keyword like Kilimanjaro. So I'm using Ahrefs here. You could use SEMrush or whatever your keyword research tool is. And you can jump into matching terms. And because I put in a very broad C keyword here, it's going to give me every single keyword in this specific niche, which is Kilimanjaro. So there's 26,000 keywords. That's a lot of keywords. But what I could do is I could use this include and exclude, and I could start typing in things like weather and climate and temperature and snow, and all of the kind of keywords that are broadly in the space. And people are also looking at month, and then you could type in every month if you wanted to, January, February, March, and so on. And you can build this out, maybe 30 or 40 different ideas in here, and apply that, and that would isolate this down even further to a very nice small subset of keywords. So now there's 700 keywords that have some of these keywords in. But you can also start using like excludes here, because I know the snow of Kilimanjaro, the snows of Kilimanjaro is a Ernest Hemingway book, which is obviously not relevant, but snow needs to be there. So you could say, look, get rid of anything that's the snows, or the snow, which would get rid of all of the Hemingway book titles pretty much, hopefully. And so that's one way you can isolate this down and start to do a natural grouping without even using a tool. But that's still a lot of keywords to look at. The other way you can do this is actually use a tool to do the analysis for you. And the way that I generally do this is I'll do a grouping for an entire niche, or an entire silo in this case, which is Kilimanjaro. So it's a lot of keywords, as you know, 26,000, and that's a lot to group. So I'm just going to get rid of any keyword that's a pretty small volume, which gets us down to, let's have a look, 1,700 or so keywords. That's a much more reasonable number to group. You can export that list, and then you could jump across to a tool like KeyClusters, give it a title, upload a file. So if I went and found that file, I downloaded it earlier. What you do with KeyClusters is you need to map the columns in the export file to the variables that the KeyClusters tool needs. So keywords would be mapped to the keyword column, volume would be mapped to volume, or you could even use global volume. So either one would work. And then difficulty is the keyword difficulty, and then you can run this in different geographies or different devices. But essentially what KeyClusters will do is it'll take those bunch of keywords, I think it was 1,700 keywords here, and it's going to put each one into the SERP, and it's going to look at the ranking pages. And if a keyword has 3 pages that are the same as the next keyword, those keywords get grouped together, because you just need one article to cover those 2 keywords. And so it builds up a group of keywords and gives you the primary keyword and the keyword variations. So I'll show you what that looks like. I've already done that analysis here and exported it. So this is the analysis usually just has 4 columns: the keyword, the volume, the difficulty, and the variations. And so each row here is a potential article idea. And you can see Mount Kilimanjaro is the primary, Mount Kilimanjaro weather is the primary keyword. But if I click into here, I'm getting all of this detail. It's worthwhile kind of blowing this up so you can actually see all of these keyword variations. Whoops. Let's put this in here, and let's just make this a bit bigger so you can see it. Okay, so these are all of the keyword variations that KeyClusters has said the topic Mount Kilimanjaro weather can also rank for. So you can see people are asking about the temperature. Mount Kilimanjaro temperature, the summit temperature. They're asking about, what is the temperature at the top? They're asking about the climate, which are the wettest months, the weather forecast, and then they're getting into months so like August, October, February. Is there snow, weather stations, and so on. So you're starting to build up like a real detailed analysis of what needs to be on the page here. We need to talk about month by month analysis. We need to talk about temperature at the summit and at the different altitudes. We need to talk about whether there's snow and so on. And hopefully you can start to see how you can start covering not just topical depth, but what do people actually want when they type in the word Mount Kilimanjaro weather? Well, they want all of this information that serves their search intent. Okay, so that is how you could use a keyword grouping technology to understand, exactly what keywords need to be on the page. And then, once you've got that, you could jump into a tool like Frase. So these are these content optimization tools. We use both Frase and Surfer. And essentially you give it a keyword. So in this case, Kilimanjaro weather, and it analyzes the SERP. So it's looking at 20 or 18 different results. You can see it's got mountain forecast and so on that's looked at. And it's looking at the word count on that page. And then it's providing an average word count and various information that they think you need to have on the page. But what it also provides is, if you click here on the optimize section, it provides some of the terms that it expects to see on the page. So the word Mount Kilimanjaro, rainy season, wet season, average temperature, and so on. So you're starting to build up these kind of topical entities, terms that need to be on the page. So there's a lot of insight that you can glean from a tool like this. And so I've already put in my content just to show you what Frase thinks of that. Take a little time to load. There we go. Okay, so, and you can see, okay, well, I've used the word Mount Kilimanjaro 16 times, and it said I only need to really use it 9. I've used rainy season once, maybe I should use it twice. Average temperature I haven't used, and so on. So I can start building some of these terms in, which would just add more color and more semantic relevance to the article. So I haven't used night temperatures and so on. So Frase is really useful for that, and Surf has, I think, probably potentially a better tool in terms of NLP analysis, so natural language processing. Again, I've put in the article here, and it gives me similar things. The word count, roughly it needs to be between those two levels. My word count's that, and so on. But here it's got these terms, so you can see I haven't said the word weather on Kilimanjaro. That seems like a failing there. And ecological zones, Arctic zone, and so on. So there's, I haven't said the word wet seasons, but I've said the word wet season. So it's not. People lose sleep about getting all of these to green. I don't think that's necessary. But if there's not a lot of green, then you can do a bit more work to build in some of these phrases. Okay, so once you've done that. And you've written your article, if we jump back to the written article, you can see how I've naturally tried to build this in. So my H1 is Kilimanjaro weather, and I talk about seasonality, temperatures, weather, the terms that you're expecting to see, day and night temperatures, temperature throughout the day. So if you go through here carefully, you can see weather patterns, Kilimanjaro's climate zones, and so on. Some of the things you're expecting to see. Then you have an H2 where I've built in a keyword variation, Mount Kilimanjaro weather, talk about winds. And then if we drop down a little bit further, we've got a Mount Kilimanjaro now spelled with just the MT by month, and looking at Kilimanjaro's weather in these different month segments. That makes sense to kind of break it up in this way. And then talking about temperatures, Mount Kilimanjaro temperatures, because we had that keyword. And you can see it's giving insight on the different altitude zones and different weather at different altitude zones. Snow on Kilimanjaro, so that came up. If I go back, let me go back here. So I showed you temperature, people asking that a lot, but people also asking about, is there snow on Kilimanjaro and so on. So just jump back here, snow on Kilimanjaro, weather forecast, people are asking about that. And then, some of the specific people also asked questions were things around, what is the temperature at the top of Kilimanjaro, temperature at the summit of Kilimanjaro, what are the wettest months, and so on. So you can see, just by doing a SERP analysis, looking what's on the SERP, the people also ask questions, the organic results, spending some time there, maybe doing some keyword grouping, whether you do that just inside Ahrefs and just kind of trying to isolate down some important keywords, or using a tool like KeyClusters to group them together, and then sticking your content into a content optimization tool like Frase or Surfer. You can create a much more meaningful and higher depth article that has a much higher probability of ranking. I'm not going to talk about the next step that I use, which is interlinking using these keywords, but that is a key part of semantic SEO, because if I go over here, I've got all of these wonderful keyword variations that I will probably naturally use in some of these other articles on Kilimanjaro. So for example, this one here, like Mount Kilimanjaro facts. So we're going to have an article on that, might talk about weather briefly, and that's a great opportunity to link to the Mount Kilimanjaro article, but on one of these keyword anchors, and sending all of that topical relevance from one article to another. So interlinking your articles in a beautiful way using these keyword variations. Again, that's a huge part of, I think, a keyword grouping tool like KeyClusters, really helping you decide what anchors to build your links on. And you can do that for external links as well. So if you're going to go do some link building, you could use some of these keyword variations to link back instead of using just the primary keyword. All right, so that's semantic SEO. As always, if you've got any questions, just ask them in the comments, or feel free to get in touch with us. Thanks.